record.
That's true. That's true, David. Yeah. Um, any case, yeah, good morning. Thanks for joining us once again for a little office hours. And and what we're going to talk about today is whatever's on your minds, plus a couple of things that are on Ben's mind that came to us recently. So, Ben, I think we've got a quorum here. Tell me, Ben, anything interesting pop up in your world last week or this week?
Last week. Oh yeah, last week. Yeah. So we had somebody on Reddit. I try to keep up with the MSP for subreddit, and there was somebody that posted about Russians allowed to operate out of New York. And I want to pop that article in the chat. A very interesting read. So essentially, and I can't make this up, there's a company that owns IP address, and the name of the company is NUBES, NUBES LLC, and they are owned by a Russian, I guess, company. I didn't do too much digging into it, but apparently it's some sort of nonprofit or something set up in Russia. And there was a lot of strange activity coming from their IP addresses. So I will share my screen and show you what I saw. You can do that. Okay. So I thought there was a lot of people asking, is there any way that we can filter that ASN name through Microsoft? And most of the answers were, no, can't do that. Microsoft doesn't support this or that, but we do. And so I quickly jumped on it after doing a little bit of a search. Since I kind of have access to our database, I'm able to search all of our logs for this sort of trends across over 900 MSPs. So we found a couple of things here and there, a lot of like failed login attempts, some account locks, and whatnot. And so we wanted to be able to monitor if any of these were successful. So I went in here and I typed on our subreddit, our SaaS Alerts subreddit, made a video on how to filter for those ASN names. And I also referenced the original article. And I can very quickly kind of show you what I was looking at. It's a very, very easy rule to create. Essentially, what you do is you look for any of these authentication successful messages, which pretty much just these four, and for a filter by IPA ASN name NUBES LLC. So very effective, and feel free to pop it in your environment if you want to. I have kind of kept an eye on it a little bit, and there is a lot of activity. I reached out to one of our partners who I saw that in the logs. I'm saying, well, that's strange. Let's see if this is actually a bad thing. And the actually it was two partners, and I reached out to both of them, and they said it was a successful phishing attack, and that they were in the account where they shouldn't be. So something to keep in mind.
Eric was just mentioning in chat that they've been seeing a lot of BEC attacks using VPNs, but coming from within the United States. And our some of our European partners have been very clear. Boy, is the United States a threat vector. It's like they see a
Mhm.
ton of attacks originating from North America attacking EU clients. So it's not always about we always I always throw Uzbekistan under the bus, um, just because it's a fun word to say. And like, oh yeah, you're getting attacked from Uzbekistan, but it's clearly not. It's from everywhere and anywhere. And whether they're coming in on VPN or, as what Ben was just pointing out, there are whole blocks of IPs being used by bad guys that are in your backyard. So continue to, remain vigilant and continue to bubble stuff like this up. And I love Ben's example. We saw an issue, we did a little investigation, we built a respond rule, and within an hour, we were a little bit more armored up than we were this morning. And so, maybe that's a little overreactive, but Ben's quick on this, and I hope that you can kind of take that to heart. That it's not horribly hard to add new ideas in here, even to take them for a test drive. So, um, in Analyze, Eric, yes, you can. Ben, you want to jump over to Analyze for me and show our good friend Mr. Eric V. Where is that?
Sure.
If you are in a good spot, please. Great question. Great question.
I'm
Yeah.
always in a good
Um,
spot.
so from within the Analyze module, under IP status, kind of at the right middle there, yeah, you can search for data centers, VPNs, known bogons, known proxies, all kinds of good stuff. So I would say definitely dive into the analysis module and play with that. Yeah, start with all the malicious IPs in the world and go from there.
They're gonna make it interesting.
um, yeah, and then any of those that would be flagged as VPNs. Again, about 4 billion alerts a year. Plus, we pull from some public data sources on these. I mean, it's IP.co or something. Oops, that's somebody else coming in as well. That's where we're getting all this stuff, folks. So anybody who hasn't tripped across that yet.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening out there. Um, Anybody have any questions on what our good friend Ben was just showing us? Kind of what was your thought process when you were hearing that? Is that something you would see yourselves implementing?
Hey Anthony, Roman here. So, did you guys monitor all like the usual threat analytics, or is this something that you kind of implement once you kind of see it yourselves?
Yeah, great question, Roman. I monitor everything that Microsoft or Salesforce or Dropbox or whatever presents and share it with you. We do enrich some of that data, kind of what we were just showing you, um, for the individual alerts. If I've found some good data that I can share, but I don't flag them as any more beyond that. I'm giving you guys the opportunity to decide what's good and what's bad. We have talked about this in very far future terms. If I'm seeing tons of bad data coming out of certain spaces, why would I not want to push that back to you guys? And the mechanics of doing that have been reviewed, but we haven't actually done anything like that. So I'm not going to tell you that you should absolutely block this IP range or that IP range, but
So you
um,
guys, as of right now, of course, you guys don't compare it to, let's say, Microsoft's own threat analytics, or let's say your and I. Oh no, okay. Is that something maybe on a roadmap later on? Do you see
yeah,
that?
that's something that's exactly Roman. And what we've actually, to pull back the curtain, and I'm not promising any of this. This is stuff that's absolutely theoretical right now, or it's in early testing stages. If I can use some AI or some machine learning to do a little bit of predictive analysis and be able to look for bad behavior at a meta level. I mean, you guys are giving me billions of alerts to look at and sift through. If I can identify some pattern recognition going on in there, I might be able to, again, pulling in from outside data sources, be a little more sure about flagging anything as possibly malicious or giving the opportunity to take an action on that.
The reason
That's
I'm asking is
Mhm.
prior before I'm running Sentinel side by side SaaS alerts right now for one of our clients that we're trying to convert to you guys. And let's say yesterday we got a hit on what Microsoft refers to Storm 1575. It's like a phishing campaign stuff with Sentinel. It's basically somebody clicked on a wrong link and Chrome smart screen blocked it. Now, obviously, Microsoft checks it against their own free version of threat analytics because it's like $28,000 a month. It's a crazy amount of money. If you guys have the APIs to XDR, and I'm not sure if you do, that was my other question. In the future, can you guys get alerts from Defender XDR into SaaS alerts? Because if you do, all those alerts will also fall into play.
That's a
So
great question, Roman, and anybody else who's been through onboarding might have a little more insight in that. But since you're in the midstream on that, I'm going to tell you what I've told everybody else. Yes, our APIs are open on the back end, so you can pull out data at any time. If you want to publish that into BreakGauge or something like that, Microsoft BI, absolutely. Now, on the other side of the house, the way we get new applications into our system is you're going to reach out to me, you're going to reach out to your account manager, you're going to say, hey, I would love to monitor this this application, whether it's Sage or QuickBooks or an ERP or a Microsoft security tool, or I'm sorry, a MSP security tool. We've had requests for different firewall monitoring softwares. Send those requests up. We have a process. It's called the application wizard, Roman. We haven't talked about it a lot yet. And our guys will look at that on the back end. Now, here's the real hinge point. Do they share data already? Do they have a robust API that we can ingest and get even IAM data? That's what we're concerned about. And I use our friends at QuickBooks as a example. They have a fairly decent API, but it doesn't share any user data that's useful to us in the security world. There's no IAM events. So we've complained about that to them, and we decided that we as an industry have to have that level of visibility in just about every one of our applications. So my good friend Alex will probably post this in the chat. We have anybody who hasn't signed the petition, we'd appreciate it if you did. If you're going to come to Write a Boom, come see us at the table. What we want to do is present to software vendors a unified front that says, I need this information. I have to have this information. I need to know where people are logging in and what they're doing. So when it comes to software like QuickBooks Online, I can't monitor them today. Someday I would like to, and we've talked to them. Thank you, Alex, very much. If everybody has the opportunity to click on that link that Alex pasted in there, it would be most appreciated. And we're not going to come for your firstborn or anything. We just want to let people know.
I fully understand all other applications, but I'm still confused. This is a Microsoft product. So are you trying to tell me it's a different set of APIs than what you currently?
No. And let's talk about the endpoints. Microsoft has a ton of endpoints, the API endpoints, the webhook endpoints, where we can pull data. And our guys are working to constantly pull more data from Microsoft. And when we talk about things like the Unify module, we're pulling more data that now using the Microsoft Entra ID, Entra hardware ID, that we didn't used to. So this is an evolving space. And when I get a request from a guy like you, Roman, that goes up the feeding chain to say, hey, this is the data I would like to get. Can we get that out of Microsoft or anybody else? That's a codified process. We absolutely love that feedback, Nero. So keep that stuff coming.
Hey, Anthony,
I'm sorry, Roman works from here.
I'd like to
Yes,
chime in too here. There's I've actually, strange enough, I've been reviewing the different things Microsoft's presenting us, and I'm talking to one of our developers tomorrow about different things that we can pull from Microsoft Defender in Office or Office Defender. But really it comes down to Microsoft does present us that data, but doesn't always give us a lot of information. Like sometimes it'll just say, we've noticed this happening in your environment, but it doesn't give us an email address or anything, any way to track it down. So,
oh yeah, no, I noticed it with Sentinel as well. So it's not just their own product that's sometimes a little faulty. I mean, Teams has been down what 4 times now.
Yeah, there's some of them that are really, I think are super valuable that I'm going to run across and see what they think. But I have had that request from a couple partners, especially recently, to pull more Defender messages. So if there's specific ones that you're interested in, let me know. I have like probably a whole page full of ones that I would like to see in there as well. So I'll let you know.
So again, the client that I'm running Sentinel on, we're fully on Intune. So if I could get, let's say, compliance alerts, if I could get some of those XDR alerts, let's say there's a malware on an endpoint, it sends it up to the cloud, and then I have Power Automate give it to me in Teams. So Power Automate could ingest it, I'm thinking, again, I'm not a developer, I don't know how this works. I'm thinking API is an API, right? If you have insight into other Microsoft stuff,
Mm,
you just add a something, I don't know whatever it's called in the developer world, and just ingest that Intune / Defender XDR API.
okay,
Well,
gotcha.
so,
Yeah, because there's a couple of different defenders, and I wanted to make sure we were on the
but
on the same page.
cloud, I mean, Defender for cloud, there's Defender,
Yeah.
which is just,
Yeah.
but yeah, Defender for cloud would be great too. There's your travel activity, and that, but that's all more like enriched.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at too, and seeing what we get from both of those. But I appreciate it. I'll let you know what I find out.
Excellent. Jason, shout out. Tell me what happened. Jason threw something in the chat that we'd like to discuss if we can.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen. Let's see, here's one. So yesterday, interesting events here. So SaaS Alerts had sent me a ticket at 9:23 that there was some sort of activity type of an email rule was enabled. And normally in Respond, if we have an email forwarding rule enabled, that our hair on the back of our neck should stand up. But I don't have any Respond rules with this type of activity. So it caught my eye. I was on a call. I, was going to deal with it after the call. But then what happened at 9:42 is then I received another alert that user restriction was turned on this account, which then immediately caught my attention. And I logged into Exchange and saw that this account was sending 500 emails within like a 15-minute period. So it obviously got compromised. So I went in and shut the account down, and then called the user, and it was a long day to clean that up. But I think what I've learned here, and I was looking for thoughts from the group, I've now since actually turned on a Respond rule anytime there's an email rule enabled to just lock the account, because that could have been my first opportunity early on in this event to shut this bad actor down, but I didn't. And then I've also turned on another Respond rule anytime a user restriction email alert comes in to shut the account down as well. I don't know, do we have any templates? Did I maybe miss these two activity types? Because both of them should have been concerning to me, and I feel like I maybe wasn't as prepared as I should have been. So I don't know what.
Jason, I think those are both great. If you want to offline share the templates that you built, I can definitely push that up to our Respond team and get that the next time they roll out some new templates. Your name would be in lights if you like, or at least share your ideas as you have here. Ben, have you seen anybody building rules specific, Respond rules specific to email rules being enabled or
Mhm.
that compliance event?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share mine, and I'll show you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
So
feedback, Rich. Appreciate it.
definitely. There's the Jake Tarrant risky inbox rule that somebody that Jake submitted, I think, during one of our contests. Looks for similar things happening, or email rule created or enabled, but it's also specifically looking for particular names of rules being set up. The way that it's set up now is this can be loud, especially if you have people that are used to creating, email rules that, if Ben sends me an email, put it in the bin folder. So that can be loud. What I've done in the past for people that want to tweak this a little bit is I'll simply move this rule down here. Can't type. Okay. Hang on one more second. Rule enabled. And then I'll exit out up here. And so essentially, what we've seen a lot of threat actors do is create forwarding rules with just a period, just simply because they're harder to spot and they're very easy to overlook. But we've also seen, I think one of the guys that works, DJ that works at SpearTip, said that he's seen other people that, created them with like 2 and 3 periods, since not all, you can't have a bunch of rules with the same name. But so essentially what you would do is you just click the or and you say description details contains 2 periods.
I saw one yesterday, Ben, that was period, comma, period, comma, period, comma. So there's some of those wild cards that will eventually work their way into respond will be very helpful there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
and
seen a bunch of them all test recently.
Yeah, and if you do RSS, that's a lot of the times they'll just forward stuff to the RSS. So if it's a RSS is mentioned in the description details of the event, then it should catch it there as well.
And
But
it looks like in
Thank
my
you,
case,
Eric,
what they
for
did
sharing.
is, yeah, they
I'm sorry, go ahead.
actually they created an email event, and they were moving all the inbox to the conversation history. So that way, when people started to respond saying, "Hey, why are you spamming me?" It was yeah. So that's what they did. It's
Yep.
Eric
definitely
shared in the chat, if you want to glance at that at some point, their rules with period, 2 periods, dashes, commas, 3, slashes, pipes or whatever that character is called.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that, Eric. That's some good stuff going on there. Jason, does that give you a little insight into archive? That's another one, Eric. Thank you. Jason, does that give you a little insight into how Ben would craft this rule and some of the things he would do here?
Yep, absolutely. I have one question on the analyze module, if you don't mind. I'm just going to share my screen again real quick.
Of course, let me stop sharing mine.
Oh, yep.
There you go.
So the same customer, so I started looking at the analyze to make sure that something else wasn't going on once we've cleaned up the account. And I have a lot of these activities, and I think it's because they're SharePoint users. So it does say SharePoint here at the end of these. Are these literally just logs that they access SharePoint? Because the IP is coming back to Microsoft.
Jason, and for anybody else who isn't clear on this, Microsoft for IAM events, for login events, basically, they tell me where the actor is sitting, good or bad. So once you're inside the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft figures you're safe, they start telling me the location of the file. So you're going to see that this particular file was stored in San Antonio. And don't be surprised if tomorrow Microsoft moves it to Virginia or the Netherlands or Spain. So Microsoft is using every place as their data center. But to dive down into this a little bit deeper, Jason, if you were to look at one of those events in the Analyze module, there's that little magnifying glass on the left would tell you the entire URL of the share and everything that Microsoft shared with us about that particular event. So not only just that your user opened it, yeah, and Rich, we see that all the time. I was just on a call with a guy who had literally some of their spreadsheets were in Brazil and some of their Word docs were in the Netherlands for the exact same company.
We had the same thing in Paris, showing up in Paris. That was so weird.
Okay.
Literally, the same user, one file was in Paris, another file was in US. I'm like, what?
And it's really confusing. Luckily, we're going to give you guys a little bit more control and in the alerting module, we're going to give you some more control on there a little bit later this year to help quiet some of that down so that you can kind of sift through that since Microsoft didn't used to do that. They used to keep all of your data in North America. When they started moving it all over the planet, it kind of raised merry hell for anybody that had visibility of that through the SaaS Alerts module or otherwise. So, yeah,
Okay, good.
that's exactly how I'd use this, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. At first I was just concerned that they were opening it from this IP address, but that is not the case. That's where this file is being accessed. Okay.
That's where Microsoft has it stored today, is in their San Antonio data center.
Okay.
And again, in 10 minutes, it could be someplace else. Microsoft does as they do. And the great part is the bandwidth is good enough. Ben, if you take a look at Jason's question real quick, the nice thing is for the end user, you click on your spreadsheet, it opens, and that's really where we stop caring as an end user. But if those accounts, are being shared all over the world as engineers and as security folks, that might be something we actually care about. Ben, did you grab that chat
I see that.
Just tweak.
So I believe the email rule is simply could be a rule that just moves email from one folder to a next, or deletes it, or it does some sort of process. But the email forwarding, I believe, is there's an option just to forward all your email. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, and the compliance is kind of a Microsoft tends to decide what is in or out of compliance and alert their kind of on their own by their own criteria. So that can be a little bit of a challenge at times.
And let's see if I can find you some more information on that one.
Yeah, because the basics we got in a spreadsheet are not as helpful as one might like. So,
Yeah, so we have one client that constantly, all of them, and mind you, there's like around 500 people, they constantly create email rules. So let's say email from Ben goes to the Ben folder, like you mentioned, and we just enabled it, and I'm saying, I'm like, do I really want to see it? But then again, if I turn it off, I'm like, am I going to miss something? So that's where, the FOMO is kicking in.
Yep. And that's why
yeah,
I like to
absolutely.
filter off a lot of anything that's like description details. If it's in that smaller text, then you can filter off of that and look for a specific keywords.
Excellent. Excellent. Where were they going with that? Adam is going to try to join us to talk about Unify. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to, so I might leverage once again my good friend Ben Jones to show us the basics. Oh yes, and I haven't forgotten about that, Roman. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody who didn't get the newsletter or didn't read it, we now have Okta in beta as one of the applications that we can monitor. So if you have any of your clients that utilize Okta, if you utilize it internally, reach out to your account management people, and they can get that turned on for you. And again, it's in beta, but it's been in beta with some of our perfect. Adam will be joining us here in about 3 or 4 minutes to jump over there. But yes, this is what it's going to look like. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I could give you guys access to compare how Sentinel folded. I have all the data tables and all the logs. So if you need to improve your, I guess,
Appreciate that, Nero. I keep calling you Nero, Roman. Roman, I appreciate that. We'll be joined here in a couple of minutes with the guy who may be able to speak to that a little bit. For anybody who's been on some of our other meetings, then Adam, one of our dev team.
may want to add to this guide because you skipped the first step, the host name. You got to require HTTPS on there. Usually, let's say, again, going back to Sentinel and some of the products here, I just put in name.okta.com. You guys require the HTTPS. And it's
Okay.
but that it's easy to figure out, but you might as well put it in there.
Very true. Thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. That's we are all human, so it's any feedback you can give us like that is most appreciated. And again, this is in beta, so this is exactly where we're headed with this. Roman, I'd like to put a pin in Okta for just a moment and circle back to my good friend Adam. Adam, have you joined us? Oh, he's still connected to audio. Sorry. There's Adam. Good afternoon, Adam.
Good afternoon.
Everybody, this is Adam. And anybody who's been around for a while, seen him on lots of calls, and he was the leading force behind a number of improvements on the platform, including Unify. And Adam, we had a couple of quick questions about how Unify might best be implemented. Are you in a good spot to maybe give us the 3-minute demo, as it were?
I'm getting my screen set up right now. What have you discussed thus far as potential use cases that I can?
We haven't. We're going to put you
Gotcha.
in the crosshairs. And,
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
I was going to put Ben in the crosshairs, and you were foolish enough to chime in. So
I get that. Yeah. All right.
guys,
Let me setting up my
who hasn't played
environment.
with anybody who hasn't played with Unify, it's supported most of the big RMMs. If you have one of the RMMs that's not supported, they're in the pipeline, so stick with us. But it's basically a way of collecting hardware data and comparing that with SaaS data for all of your alerts. And once you have that data in hand, what else would you do with that? How else would you leverage that to keep your clients safer and maybe reduce a few tickets? And Adam is going to give us a little demo here.
Think I'm there. All right. So there's a few main components to making Unify work. You all have probably done them all, but since I'm here and I'm showing, we'll start from the tippity top. So in your organization screen, you should be connecting your RMM. So once your RMM is connected, you'll get the opportunity to map organizations. And the mapping of organizations is where the first thing on here really starts. So by mapping any organization here, you're telling it to pull the devices in for that particular organization. So, for instance, I've got SaaS Alerts here in Ninja, and I've just mapped it to the SaaSalerts.com unified test that I have. And once I click next and finish on this, and this mapping occurs, within 15 minutes, we will have imported the devices for that particular SaaS Alerts organization here, or whatever organization you want. And we will have started to do the magic calculation that Unify does. A couple things before I move to that piece, or one thing. This is a fairly new feature. And it basically, if I turn this on, it basically just says, if there's an org inside SaaS Alerts that matches 100% an org inside your RMM, just go ahead and map it for you automatically, rather than you having to come in here and do it over and over again. So once that's set there, then we basically are saying, hey, pull in the devices for that org. Within 15 minutes, like I said, if you bounce over here, you will start to see things show up. And in here, we're going to show you what is the device name, what organization did it come from, recent IPs, which product sucked it in, the most recent user, or if there have been more, you'll see a little magnifying glass and it'll tell you, it'll give you the history for that particular device. And then we're going to show you one of two things here. We're either going to give you a single confidence number, or we're going to give you a range. And when there's a range, we're saying, hey, we think there's multiple accounts that might actually be using this particular device. And in this instance, it's actually hitting my wife. So we both work for SaaS Alerts. We're both on Macs. We're both coming from the same public IP. Our names are very similar, or our last names are. And so therefore, we're saying, hey, like, I've got a 60% certainty that this is Adam at SaaSalerts.com's device. And then if you hover over, it's going to tell you why we think that. And if you'll notice in the middle part there, that event email to device username, event email to device name has a 45 and a 65% match there. And when I go to Carly here, she's got none of that. And it's because Adam matches Adam, and then also the recent username also matches a piece of that. So in this instance, I'd come here and I'd say map. All right, now that one's gone. And so you could come here and you could do onesie twosies, or you can head over to automation. And automation is set up to do exactly that. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say automatically map devices for all organizations. I could exclude them if I wanted to. I could say only map it if there's just a single an account that is over the confidence score. Or if I turn this off, I'm going to say pick the highest account. And then I'll let you pick anywhere from 65 to 100%. If I were starting this and I were you guys, I might start at like 80 and then let it map the ones that are there and then back it off to 75 and, get it to the point where you're comfortable with the quality. Once you set the settings, you hit run if, and I don't have any that hit this minimum, unfortunately, in my list right now, but it'll show you the things that would be mapped if you let this thing fly automatically. And that tells you that, hey, the level I've chosen here is good. All right, So now I've got my mapped accounts, which I can actually see in here. These are the ones that I've mapped prior. So I can see that I've got devices mapped to this particular account. You can have multiple devices mapped to an account. We don't allow multiple accounts mapped to devices yet. So terminal servers, shared computers, things like that, you basically just have to ignore for this time being, which you can choose by ignore, or you can leave it in the list. So once you've mapped your first device, the thing that you're going to notice first, if I can get this little thing out of my screen. All right. The first thing you're going to notice is in the analyze screen, you have a new column called device that will show up upon your first mapping. And when you look at this, it's telling you a couple things. So in this particular instance, Adam logged into Slack, and from this IP address, from this city, and it was an authentication success. It was low because authentication successes usually are. And it's telling me now, hey, I'm pretty sure with a 66% confidence rating that this logon actually occurred from Adam's mapped device. And we're showing a 66% certainty. Okay. Now, what's interesting about that, and I'll show you just, it does kind of on the fly on all of them. If we flip the script and we go, huh, are there any logons that are occurring from an unknown device? And that's what this is telling us. So again, Adam logged into Slack, and this normally would be a low-level event because a standard login is a low-level event. No big deal, right? But when we fed in the information that we got from the SaaS world on this, all of the stuff that the Slack in this instance hands us, and we compared it to the mapped device that I had for my account, we found out that the IP address does not match the IP address that's on my RMM agent on my managed machine. So now I can say this login occurred from a device that Adam is not currently using and is not an RMM managed device. Other things that you might see here, mobile OS, we ignore those right now. We are not processing mobile devices inside Unify. We're looking at Intune and we're looking at Adigy right now as the way to make that better. You might also see no mapped devices for user. And that just basically means at that particular time, and mine's test data, so normally you wouldn't see flip and flopping with a single user. But this is just basically saying there are no mapped devices for Adam, so therefore I can't do the Unify magic. Go map some devices for Adam. And then incomplete device data means that when the SaaS event occurred on, in this instance, G Suite didn't give us enough information as part of the event to do the calculation. So therefore, this is another one where we're just skipping. All right. So then moving on, you go, well,
hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's Dave. Good. How are you?
Oh, Dave's on a phone
There we
call. I was all excited. I got a question. All right. So now you think to yourself, okay, that's cool. What have I done at this point? You've done nothing that would lock a user out, elevate a alert status to a medium or critical. You're not really doing anything at this point other than enriching the alert that we generated with some contextual information on, is this happening from an RMM managed device or not? Now, the next piece is, what do? Let's make it stronger. Okay, so let's head over to respond, and let's see what we can do with some respond rules. There are some templates. Apologize, everyone. My computer is going slow. I don't know whether it's me or my QA platform, but it'll load eventually, I suspect. So we do have some templates that we've placed inside Respond that you can clone that kind of give you the bare bones for how to start approaching this. And as soon as it loads, I'll show you an example of one of those. There we go. Magic is starting to happen there. All right. So if you go to rule templates and you do a search for, wow, man, like I got like hamsters running my computer right now, clearly. to add another hamster in. If you do a quick search for Unify, you're going to see a few options in here. I have one already made that I'm going to show you all. So actually, I may not show you that one because that's not the one I think I was looking for. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. So if y'all are familiar with Respond, I'm going to roll through the Respond standard stuff and just kind of look at the Unify thing specifically. But in Respond, we can come in here and we can add a monitor for any type of activity that's occurring. So, you know, these are particularly file shares. They could also be IM events, you know, successful login, whatever it is. But if you guys click this little filter button over on the right-hand side, you're going to pop out with these green things. And now you can start utilizing some of the, you know, the more detailed kind of metadata around what's going on with the alerts. And there are some Unify specific ones. So if I come in here and I say, is mapped, device is mapped. So if you remember, we had that one that if a user didn't have a mapped device, we just basically said user doesn't have a mapped device. So I'm going to say, I only want to have this happen if the user has a mapped device. And then I'm going to make sure that this isn't a mobile because right now we're not doing anything with mobiles. Next up, I'm going to make sure that Unify has enough data to do the calculation, meaning that G Suite or Slack or Microsoft or whatever it was passed us enough data to do the magic. And then I'm going to look at a couple things, the mapped confidence level. And so if I see a mapped confidence level that's less than 50, that pretty much tells me that it's an unknown device. If it's over 50, then we start saying, okay, we have with a decent certainty that things are good. And I've put on here also a 65 or higher, we're getting pretty confident. All right. So then the last piece of this is the device ID match or the Entra device ID match. So this is a fairly new feature that I probably should have mentioned earlier, but I can provide you a link to a KB article, or maybe Ben can post it in the chat window if he looks up Entra device ID while I'm doing this. Okay. So we have a script that's PowerShell script that you can schedule in your RMM that will pull the Entra device ID out of the system, and then you can store it into a custom field in your RMM, and we'll pull that custom field in, and then we will actually compare the device's Entra ID in the RMM to the Entra device ID that's being presented to us from Microsoft. And if those two things match, my hypothesis is you're pretty much 100% certain that the person is on their RMM managed device. So in this particular instance, I'm actually saying not only do I want to make sure that the confidence score is less than 50, meaning that it's an unknown device, but I also want to make sure that the Entra ID is not matching, which is like dead to rights. This is not the machine. So kind of going back from the top, somebody's doing something with files, and we are almost dead to rights certain that it's not on their known device because the confidence score is less than 50 and the intra device ID doesn't match. So at that point, you can take something that would normally be a low-level event, you know, call it the haystack, and we can find the needle in the haystack, and then we can take action. We could block sign-in. We could expire account logins. We could change the password, whatever it is. So that is a perfect example of how to use Unify. Now, we can flip it the other direction too. And we can come up here and we could say something that usually might be critical. Let's say an outside approved location event. But then what we can do is we can actually flip this the other way. And then we can say, hey, look, if this is a known computer and the Entra ID exists, then rather than doing all the bad stuff, let's just do nothing. And now we can actually take things that would normally be a critical alert and slam them down to low, for instance, because that person is probably on vacation and they didn't tell you. All right. That was the deep dive. I was unprepared. Anthony grabbed me while I was eating the last bite of my sandwich. and I'm here. So questions,
awesome.
comments?
Hey,
Hey, Adam.
How was
Go
your
for it.
sandwich?
It was good.
I was
It was
just saying.
turkey, Colby Jack, bacon, and some sprouts with some toasted white bread. It was fantastic.
That sounds
hungry.
delicious.
Yeah, I'm
All right,
hungry.
continue with the professionalism. Sorry about that.
All right, I don't know what I just did, but I did something. All right. So any questions on that, or any specific, like how would I configure this, or
More
anything?
than anything, how are you doing on identifying the Entra ID? Last we tested, at the beginning of the year, there were still some hiccups there on the multiple different IDs.
Yeah, so what I've seen on that, the short answer is I have no clue. The longer answer is mobile devices, Macs, things that are not Windows, I'm finding are not as accurate as I would love it to be. But I don't know exactly why. So I left the MSP world about 3 years ago, before that was even a thing. So I don't really have the depth of knowledge that some of you all might have. So if you can tell me how the heck a Microsoft Entra device ID is assigned, and I see a hand up from Eric, but my understanding is if it's a Windows box, it's hybrid domain, sorry, hybrid joined or native joined to Entra, which used to be Azure AD, then it's assigned, it's right. But when
But
you start getting Macs and things get weird.
So when you have, from what I've seen, this you get two different IDs if you're just using joined versus registered. Are you taking both, or what are you?
I am taking whatever that little script is that Ben hopefully posted. Let me pull it up and I'll share my screen. And this is where, like, listen, guys, if you find something that we're not doing right, or there's a better place to pull it from, and I can add an if then into this script here, then I'm happy to do so. But this is the script that I'm running to grab that. And then you would schedule this in your RMM.
Oh, okay. Yes, right. Yep. Okay.
Yep. All right. I've got a question from...
I'm sorry. Follow up to that. We're using Ninja for our. Is there a specific name for the custom field that you're looking for?
Yes. So in here, I will tell you specifically what to name it. And it's hard-coded today. In the future, we might give you the ability to select the custom field that you gave us, and you can name it whatever you want. But right now, it's a hard set one.
And one more,
help you?
if I may, everybody. Let me just kind of quickly share my screen. So can I share my screen? I guess I can do that. So over here, you see a lot of them are, potential accounts, they're at 50%. I kind of, none of these are it. And because this is an on-prem client, they do not have Azure or anything else. How do I kind of manually force it? Or is there a way to force it?
You can hit a manually mapped device at the top if you select the organization. So in the drop down there, you can manually map device now. And then no, at the top right, there's a button, green.
Got it.
You can select the device, and then you can select the account.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Now,
that's easy.
The tricky part with that is this was a feature that I was like demanded to put in by one of our partners. And in reality, I think it makes no sense, because if we couldn't detect it at this phase, then we're probably not going to be able to do it the opposite direction as the event is coming in either. Not to say don't do the manual mapping, because who knows, we might have some magic in the future that does do something. But in instances where you've got corporate offices, where you all are running the same OS, you're all running the same IP address, and usernames are not in the device name at all, then you start having situations where you just can't get it done. Eric, I'm going to throw it to you just because you keep patiently raising your hand.
No problem. Well, my question was similar to the Entra ID, I've noticed that we use N Central, and I put in a script for the IP address, public IP address, and I'm getting a lot of IPv6 addresses
Mm-hmm.
back, even though does that can you still match those? Is Microsoft giving
No.
IPv6 addresses, or are those
No,
useless?
that's an issue. And if you followed my script that I put up for the public IP in our KB, I thought about that exact situation and I have not circled back around, but I think you can add a switch to the command to tell it to give you IPv4 only. But I have not circled back around on that.
Sure. Yeah, I modified that script quite a bit because I think whatever site you're checking at, I was worried about hitting a limit on that site as well.
Yeah.
Because I know that sometimes free sites don't always, if they
Mhm.
see 100 devices every 10 minutes from a single client, that might
Got you a botnet there.
get you blocked. So
I mean, better would be for you to go to N-Central and be like, WTF, mate, why are you not putting the public IP as a standard field in the device? Like,
right.
who does that? Although I do really like working with the Enable folks because they actually answer my emails, which is cool.
Been a good partner. Any other questions? Thanks for bringing that up, both Jason and Rich, about the Unify. I'm glad we were able to snag my friend Adam and throw him in the spotlight so quickly. But while we've got his attention for the next 5 minutes, anything else that you guys have any Unify specific questions on? Adam, thank you as always, buddy.
Peace out. Catch y'all later.
Yeah.
In general, anybody have any other questions about Respond, or do you see yourselves leveraging more of this Unify information as you get more comfortable with the Unify module?
So I have a quick question, not with the Unify, Anthony, that I keep forgetting week after week, and then you move me to 2 weeks, so it makes it even harder. So on the mobile app, we have it both. I have it on my Android and on my iOS device, but for the life of me, I cannot get it to alert anything. I've checked the settings left, right, up and down on both systems, and alert is turned on, but I will not get an alert.
I wish Adam was still here because he and his lead developer are the ones working on that. Enrique, do me a favor, reach out, email your account manager and support, and you can CC me, and we'll take a look at this because that is, I'll be honest, that's why we've had very few people starting to use the application and having problems with it. And so if you've tripped across something new, I definitely want to know about that.
I think he's referring to like push notification. Oh, here's Adam.
So I get the text messages after you guys recommended to do the number at T-Mobile, whatever, to get text messages for critical alerts. But I would expect if I have a critical alert, like I'm getting a text message, I would expect to also have a pop-up from SaaS Alerts, and I'm not seeing any.
Wouldn't that be amazing, Enrique? So here's the thing. The mobile app that I delivered a couple months ago actually has the feature to have push notices work. So think about it as like the wide receiver is there just waiting for the ball. And we're waiting for the Respond team to like be the quarterback and throw it. So interestingly enough, I was working with the dev this morning on that, and we're getting very, very close to finally lighting that up. So coming soon will be, it'll be Respond based. So if you have a Respond trigger that requires manual approval, then you will get a push notice saying you have to approve something. If there are other areas of the product that you would want to get push notices for, I'm all ears. But as of right now, Respond, where you would normally get a text message, will be hopefully replaced with push notices soon.
That's a good start. And I'm glad you're back because you took off too soon. I was preparing my thoughts. So on the mapping devices, so we have a lot of them mapped, probably a couple of hundred endpoints mapped. But when I go to alerts, I see a lot of incomplete device data and event or unknown device with a little red exclamation, and then some no map devices for user. Like I'm seeing none here in 500 events.
Yeah, incomplete device data means that we don't have enough data from the source. So I don't know what product that is, but the product isn't handing us what we need.
Okay.
Is that, I assume, not Microsoft?
Microsoft sign-ins,
Is that what's generating those?
the unknown device, yes.
Huh. Oh, the unknown device is different. The incomplete usually is not Microsoft.
All right, let me see who the incomplete is. Microsoft Application Management.
Cool. If you want to take a screenshot of that and email it over to me, I'm happy to take a
Microsoft User Management. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got some examples, you can shoot them over to me in email and I can go hunting through the raw data from Microsoft, but we've been pretty diligent on that side of the house and it's probably just not providing it to us.
Okay.
Now, the unknown device is generally the biggest way to have an unknown device is an IP address doesn't match, an OS doesn't match, or an intra-device ID does not match. And you can click the little magnifying glass on the left of the event, and it pulls up on that right-hand screen all of the kind of metadata. And if you do a search for device, you'll usually see what matched and what didn't. And I can maybe pull that up. I know we're coming at time here.
Okay, so I look for device map confidence 0, device unified true, device source info false, device OS Windows 10, but
Trying to get back to a screen where I can pull that screen up so that everybody else is benefiting from this at the same time.
you want me to share mine or?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd rather look at real data than fake data.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and bounce, but I'd wish you luck.
All right, so if you go to events table on that tab there, so it's nice and pretty, and you type like device, this is going to show you kind of what we got. So device is mobile is false, so that's good. You do have a map device, which is good. Unify can evaluate, which is true, which is good. Now, if you back up and you type like source, I think might be what I'm looking for. No, you maybe just pull it all the way out. I don't, or intra, can you look for intra? All right, that's not there. Okay, so let's just scroll down. There are things related to Unify that will tell us kind of the calculation that happened and where things went sideways. So it's past all the location stuff. Huh. Well, I expected to see more information in there for sure. What app is that? That's, oh, is this Respond?
We're looking at real-time alerts.
Okay, hit the X for me. Which one did you click on? Okay, this is Respond. Okay, so if you think about what Respond is our automatic SOC analyst in the background doing things. So in this instance, this isn't a user actually doing the thing. This is Respond saying it triggered a event. So looking at a real event, you're going to see things in here that are a lot more detailed. You might try Unify maybe or Entra. No. So which one is that? That's Microsoft. Okay. So if we just pull down and scroll down the same way we did last time, there should be a whole section in here that says what's going on. I'm so confused. I know I'm kind of doing this live, so forgive me. That one was that a Respond one again, or was that an actual product?
This is outside approved location, Power BI.
Right. Which one did you click? Click X there for me?
This one right here.
Okay. So, oh, that's of IPv6. So IPv6 doesn't work either, although I'm going to take a screenshot of that real quickly because IPv6 should actually show up as
In the data.
Unify cannot evaluate because it shouldn't be an unknown device on an IPv6. So that, my friend, is a enhancement that I need to make.
Do I win anything?
You win that the product will be better in about 4 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
As I know
And
we
this
run
is
a
the
bit
kind of
over
stuff I
time on
love.
this, and I want to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is the kind of stuff I love. Like I don't get enough Unify feedback from folks to be able to really improve the product the way that we do in some other cases where you guys beat it up all day long. So we're still kind of in the early stages of Unify, and getting that feedback and seeing this real data is what makes it better.
Perfect.
Rich, that was indeed positive intent. Gotta love that. I know we've run a bit over on time, guys. I think it was time well spent, but we do need to wrap this up for a couple of our folks we need to let go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Adam, very much for jumping in and being being so helpful and showing me some things that I didn't even know Unify could do. I look forward to chatting with everyone again in about 2 weeks. In the meantime, if you have any questions, reach out to your account managers or to support. Let us know how we can help.
Thank you, guys.
Take
Have a
care,
great
guys.
afternoon. Bye-bye.